Excited, a New York guy coming to Chicago.
Of course, of course. Love it. I love me some Chi-Town, baby.
That's right. And you got a couple of shows that you're doing here, right?
Yeah, I'm in Joliet, and
In Waukegan, November 22nd, and in Joliet, November
yes,
21st.
Right. So
that's
it'll be
right.
a
You
whole,
got it. So you passed. Very good. Good job.
it'll be a whole Chicago weekend for you, and we're excited to have you here and excited to talk to you today.
How can people expect your stand-up to be different than like you were obviously on Impractical Jokers for so long? And so I feel like people would think like that they know exactly your sense of humor, but how is it different when you're on the stage doing stand-up versus when you're playing pranks with your friends?
Well, the stand-up format's a lot of fun because I'm a story-based teller. I like to spend time telling stories, so I get into this new tour is called Let's Get Into It because I'm obsessed with like the way people become the people they are, especially now with a father. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it's just funny to look at, how people become where they are at in their life. Cause like I'm 48 years old now. I'm this, I'm known being this, bold, crazy, brave, silly guy. And I started as a complete introvert, nerdy kid who loved math and magic, and I just think about like how you're, the only journey you know is your own. So I like to think about and tell stories and realize about like certain parts of your life that make core parts of your personality happen. When I was younger, my dad, I used to make tests for my father when he was at work. I used to open up the encyclopedia and make like multiple choice exams for him. And he would come home to it like after selling life insurance door to door for 10 hours. And I'd be like, pop quiz, dad, like it's funny to see that kind of thing progress and how you become part of it. So I like to tell stories, get up there and most of all, make it an event for people. I know life's tough right now. We need some laughter. So just get out there, date night, families come out, people come by themselves and make friends. It's really fun. So it's good to do that for people.
How has having kids sort of changed your perspective on the world? I know I had a daughter this year, and it's the first time I've had a kid, and it's the first time like it really changed my perspective on all things parenting. I
Oh,
think,
you're instantly aware of your mortality, right?
right, yeah,
You're instantly like, oh, I gotta make an imprint on this kid before I'm gone. Yeah, for sure. Clock's
yeah.
ticking, baby. Let's do it. You know what I'm
I
saying?
asked Carla. I went through this whole thing where I'm like, oh, how healthy am I? Am I about to have a heart attack and die and leave this poor child?
He literally forced us to run a 5K in order for him to feel like we were on a healthy track. So I
Oh, there you go. There you go.
And
5K is going to help slow down slow the clock down. I think could work.
or
Yeah,
speed
I
it
think
up.
that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing is that. I mean, I lost my dad when I was 19, so I lost him pretty early. But
Mm.
he had such an impact on me, on ways to live your life, how to be a gentleman, all this stuff. And I think about that with my kids. So my son is 7 now, and my daughter's 9. And I actually started a journal, things you want your dad to know, because I wish my dad did that for me. And I just free associate and just write pages in this journal for them that they'll have after I go. And and it's just interesting to think about that stuff. But I think the most as a parent, the biggest thing you could do is like coping mechanisms, like help them cope because life
Right.
is going to suck and get hard, and they got to be able to get through it. We all know that firsthand, in different levels of it. Nobody has an easy one. So that's the big thing for me. And that actually became part of my book, Where's Barry, my kid's book. It has a message about how learning how to cope, calm down, breathe, you'll figure it out, have some faith in yourself, I think. So it's interesting just to have that become part of your personality when you become a dad.
is the main character Barry maybe based on your son or on you?
Now my son, Remo.
Yeah.
So that's a true story. My son lost his stuffy before he went to bed. Totally flipped out. Like all parents know, it's like a catastrophe. So he was like flipping out. And he had to like calm down, and we had to find it because I didn't know where it was. And he had been playing hide and seek with it, and he hid it underneath the pot in the kitchen under the sink. We never would have found it. So like it was
He
so he had
forgot
to
where
like
he
calm
put it.
down. He forgot where he put it. So he had to calm down and do this stuff. And it got illustrated by I wrote the story, sent it over to Penguin Publishing, and it got illustrated by a great illustrator, Luke Flowers, out of Colorado. Great guy. And he made it really come to life in a fun way. It's bright and bold, but he was a Jokers fan. I didn't know that. So when he sent over the first drafts, there's like all these Easter eggs. There's like a Captain Fatbelly action figure in the thing. There's a thing of Scoopsky Patatas. Like it's really funny. So I'm very happy with it. And it's cool to have your kid be a cartoon in a book.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like back in my 20s, I didn't really have a filter around kids. I'd be like, oh, I'd say this or this. And then I would later be like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I wouldn't think too much into it. Now that I have a kid, I'm very aware of that. Our producer, Frank, had a slip up the other day. He was watching the Michigan game, and there just happened to be a baby at this party where he was watching it, and he said, and the baby was crying, and he was talking about somebody on TV, and he said, "Oh man, this kid sucks." And
The kid on the team.
the kid on the
Yeah,
team,
he had to immediately qualify it.
or the poor mom thought, well, he's obviously talking about my crying child, which parents are anxious enough, when their kids are crying, anyway.
Yeah.
And so it led us to this conversation of,
In Frank's defense, that kid sucks too. He was ruining the game.
yeah, yeah. But it led us to this conversation of like, what is the worst thing that you may have said in front of a kid? By accident, I would assume, or maybe on purpose. Is there something that comes to
On
mind?
purpose. I mean, there's been plenty of things in the show that they made me say in front of children. I mean, they designed a whole punishment around my daughter. My daughter was in the show, and I was in this parenting focus group, and they sent in the child actor, and it was my daughter. They took my daughter for the day, so she comes in, and they made me reward her with treats like she was a puppy when she was doing, and I had a bag of Cheerios, and I would be like, okay, roll. Like I was like, okay, come on, and I was getting, and I was like, sit down, and I would go sit, and she was so young, she didn't know. I think she was like 3 or 4 at the time, and she was like, I was like, sit down, and she would sit, and I gave her a Cheerio, and she would eat it, and all the parents were like, what the heck is going on with this guy? Yeah, that was a bizarre one for sure.
It's funny now, but I'm sure that your kid in the future is gonna see that episode and be like, Dad, what was going on?
What are you doing? Yeah, yeah.
Because
She's 9 now. She's kind of obsessed with it. It's cute. Like she'll want to watch stuff sometimes. We watch some clips sometimes. I don't let her watch the full episodes because it's she's 9, maybe when she turns 12 or something. But most of the stuff goes over her head anyway. But I think it's funny for her to see, like, she loves like the genie punishment and me as Captain Fat Belly, like all the silly stuff I did. She likes when I do my weird looks because she likes my big eyes and things. So it's fun. And when I have them on the road with me, it's the best. That's so much fun.
I know that you mentioned that your tour, you like to talk a lot about how people become the way that they are, right? And you said you have kids, and I know that we always want to instill in our children the best that we can, but sometimes we sprinkle in a little trauma on accident. Are there any things that, like, you as a parent, you think, wow, I kind of messed up there, but I'm trying to be better, like some good, some feel good moments for new parents like Moog?
Yeah, I spent my last hour special. My special came out called "Messing with People," and it's on YouTube now. And I spend 20 minutes in that special talking about how I scarred my son by taking him on the Star Wars ride in Disney World because he had never seen a Star Wars movie and never been on a ride, and he thought he got abducted by aliens as a 5-year-old, and he was screaming bloody murder, holding onto the railing, yelling, "I want to go back to Earth." It was hysterical in hindsight, but my son was deathly afraid of like being abducted for a minute. And yeah, it's funny because you don't realize those things. You're like, oh, I love Star Wars. Come on, it's gonna be so fun. And he's like, what is this? I've never been. And they do such a good job because that's like that ride is like based in reality, Liz. It's an immersive experience. So everybody that works there is playing a character. All the people that work the line are playing bad people from the Empire or whatever. So there's no like guy in a red vest being like, next to get on the ride, let's go. Like you feel like you're in this total different world. And wow, man, he's gonna need some therapy for that, I think.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And again, we're so excited that you're going to be out here in the Shy on November 21st in Joliet and then November 22nd out in Waukegan for Let's Get Into It.
I'm very excited to be there. I always love that part of, the fans are always great, treat me well there. So I'm really excited. Thanks so much.